When you're thinking about something you don't understand, you have a terrible, uncomfortable feeling called confusion. It's a very difficult and unhappy business. And so most of the time you're rather unhappy, actually, with this confusion. You can't penetrate this thing. Now, is it the confusion is because we're all some kind of apes that are kind of stupid, working against this, trying to figure out to put the two sticks together to reach the banana, and we can't quite make it, the idea. And I get that feeling all the time that I'm an ape trying to put the two sticks together. So I always feel stupid. Once in a while, though, the sticks go together on me, and I reach the banana.
But as soon as it got to understanding effectively physics and anything to do with mathematics, and I was completely at sea.
I must say, I wasn't a natural mathematician. You meet some people who just can do it.
Yeah.
And I certainly wasn't at school. I didn't like it very much. I like
Right.
physics, but maths I found difficult. And then when I was about 23, went to university and realised that it's practice. For most people, it's practice.
Yes.
So it's like sitting at a piano and thinking, I'm going to play this. And then you go, well, I can't. And just stop.
Yeah.
And actually, maths is like that. It's
Right.
it's like playing an instrument. The more you practice, the better you get.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you're right.
You never, you're not going to be a prodigy. There's some people who just appear to be able to do it. Very few. Same with instruments, I suppose.
Yes.
Most of us have to learn how to play an instrument, and you have to learn how to do maths.
There's also there's a lovely...
In fact, I'll confess to you that when I was writing these things down reasonably quickly, when I got to 40, I wrote F-O-U-R-T-Y. And so I looked at it and said, no, that doesn't look right. So if you don't do this a lot, it's easy to get confused. Is there a 4 there, like F-O-U-R, or is it 40? Remember 14, which was a similar kind of number. 14, 40, much the same. The 14 does have an F-O-U-R there, while the 40 doesn't. So you have to remember idiosyncrasies like that, and for a lot of us, remembering things for which there's no good reason is a little bit hard.
I remind you that the area of a triangle is half the base times the altitude, and that the altitude is the vertical distance to the base. And that if the triangle is sort of cockeyed, there's a name for it which I forget, obtuse, then the altitude is this vertical height here. See, I know about the triangles, I just don't know the names.
Statistical mechanics is what you use, basically probability theory. Statistical mechanics, let me say first of all, it is just basic probability theory. The reason I teach it is not for you, it's for me. I love teaching it. I love teaching it. I teach it over and over and over again, and in a sense my life has consisted of learning and forgetting and learning and forgetting and learning and forgetting statistical mechanics. So here's my opportunity to learn it again.
You know nothing, but absolutely nothing about the bird. And then we would go on and talk about the pecking and the feathers. So I had learned already that names don't constitute knowledge, to knowing the name of something. That's caused me a certain trouble since, because I refuse to learn the name of anything. So when someone comes in and says, you got any explanation for the Fitz-Cronin experiment? I says, what's that? He says, you know, that the long-lived K-meson disintegrates into 2 pies. Oh, yes, now I know. But I never know the names of things. What he forgot to tell me was that knowing the names of things is useful if you want to talk to somebody else. So you tell him what you're talking about.
But the basic principle of knowing about something rather than just knowing its name is something that you stuck to, is it?
Yes, of course. We have to learn. These are kind of disciplines in the field of science that you have to learn. That to know when you know and when you don't know, and what it is you know and what it is you don't know.
And I'm asking you, what is the current that is flowing around? And you will laugh at me. You will say, that's almost an insult. I wish you'd given that problem at the first exam. Because E equals the current that is going to run divided by R1 plus R2. Oh my goodness, what did I do? I forgot Ohm's law. E equals IR, remember? Not I over R.
Before I talk about that, let's just talk very briefly for about 1 second about something called inertial reference frames. When I learned about inertial reference frames when I was in college, I got very confused. I could not tell what the professor was talking about. On the one hand, he said, Newton's laws are only true in an inertial reference frame. And then the next breath, he said, what an inertial reference frame is it's a frame in which Newton's laws are true. Well, this is good. I couldn't, it took me some time to work my way out of that puzzle, but let's for the moment just say it a different way.
There was a series of math books which starts arithmetic for the practical man, and then algebra for the practical man, and then trigonometry for the practical man. And I learned trigonometry for the practical man from that. Soon forgot it again because I didn't understand it very well.
You asked me if an ordinary person, by studying hard, would get to be able to imagine these things like I imagine. Of course, I was an ordinary person who studied hard. There's no miracle people. It just happens they got interested in this thing, and they learned all this stuff. They're just people. There's no talent, a special miracle ability to understand quantum mechanics or a miracle ability to imagine electromagnetic fields that comes without practice and reading and learning and study. So if you say you take an ordinary person who's willing to devote a great deal of time and study and work and thinking and mathematics and time, then he's become a scientist.
I mean, I was always, you see, when I was at school, I remember particularly in Canada, I was in Canada during the war years, and I was extremely slow. And you need my mathematics papers. I wouldn't get very good marks. And in fact, once I got moved down a class because I was very bad at doing mental arithmetic. But there was a teacher, we had a very insightful teacher, Mr. Stinnett, I think he was called, and he realized that if I was given enough time, I might do rather well in the tests, you see.